Looking for a way to keep your brain sharp and healthy, or just looking for a way to kill time when you're bored and have nothing else to do, then Sudoku may be the right puzzle game for you. In this Teaching Tuesday, I'm going to teach you what Sudoku is, what a classic Sudoku puzzle looks like, and most importantly, how to actually solve one. Now, before I get to explaining all of that, I want to point out that there are two ways that you can play this. If you prefer to go old school and want to use paper and pencil, then I suggest having a Sudoku puzzle book that you can practice with using that particular style. If you prefer to go digital, however, then all you'll need is an electronic device such as a computer or a mobile phone. Personally, I recommend using this method since there are many different versions of this game out there on the internet that you can play for free. Right now, I'm playing the cool math games version of Sudoku, Ultimate Sudoku. Also, many online Sudoku games incorporate additional features that make the gameplay much easier than what you'll experience within the old school handwritten style. With that said, it's still your personal preference. So now let's get on to what the game of Sudoku is. So if you don't already know, Sudoku is a logic-based combinatorial number placement puzzle where the objective is to fill a 9 by 9 square grid with the numbers 1 through 9, so that each row, column, and each of the 9 smaller 3 by 3 subgrids that compose the larger grid contain each digit. I'll show you what I mean by that later on in the gameplay. Every Sudoku puzzle is unique, and each one of those puzzles have only one solution. Also, the starting grids given to you are already partially filled in with numbers, where the easier puzzles have more boxes already filled and the harder puzzles have less boxes already filled. So now let's jump into the actual gameplay. So I'm going to select play, and select beginner mode, and here is what the typical Sudoku puzzle looks like. As I already stated, the standard Sudoku puzzle is a 9 by 9 square grid divided into 9 smaller 3 by 3 grids, also called blocks, which I like to call them, or regions. You notice that each one of these regions are bordered by bold lines. Obviously, there are 9 rows and 9 columns. Also there are things called ranks and stacks. A rank is when you call 3 blocks altogether going across the grid horizontally, with there being a top, middle, and bottom rank. A stack is where you call 3 blocks altogether going across the grid vertically, with there being a left, middle, and right stack. Now you'll see that this grid is already partially filled in with numbers. Your job your job is to fill in the remaining empty boxes with these numbers in such a way where they don't duplicate. Now that may sound like a simple task, but it requires a lot more brain power than you expect. Now there is no foolproof strategy to solving a Sudoku puzzle, as it depends on what puzzle is given to you. It's purely just using logic to formulate your own strategies and apply them to your given puzzle. With that said, there are a few helpful tips I'd like to share with you that I believe will help make that I believe will make solving them a bit easier. So first of all, before doing anything, scan your grid so you can strategically find your starting point. Don't just blindly enter numbers if you're not 100% confident that you're correct. It's never a good idea to guess where you think a number should be placed. Start by focusing on a block, row, or column that has the least amount of empty boxes. That way, you have a lower margin of error in filling in that particular area and thus build from there. So I'm going to start out with this block over here, since there are only 3 empty boxes. This block already has the numbers 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 9, which means it's only missing the numbers 3, 4, and 8. So if so, let's start out with the number 3. I know a 3 can't go over here, but it can go in either this box or this box. So I'm going to leave that number alone for now. So let's move on to the number 4. I know the number 4 can't go here since there's already a 4 over here, which means that but a 4 can go in either of these 2 boxes as well. So I'm going to leave that number alone. Now with the number 8, I know it can't go in this box or this box since there's already a number 8 in this column. So it must mean that 8 must go here. Now remember that before filling in a box, you always use cross-hatching, where you picture an imaginary vertical or horizontal line intersecting the box you're about to place a number in, so that you're verifying you're not duplicating that number in that box's row or column. Like now with online Sudoku games, they do that for you. So it's a bit more challenging using paper and pencil since you have to eyeball it yourself. So continue searching for easy opportunities to fill in, or at least partially fill in, certain areas until you're at a point where finding the remaining correct numbers becomes less obvious. This is when you truly need to put your logic, reasoning, and deduction skills to the test. Now, coming back to these two boxes, if you're at a point where you're stuck and you don't know where you don't know where to place a number, it's a great idea to write notes to mark boxes where possible correct numbers or candidates could go in. This is done by jotting down small size numbers in different boxes, so you'll remember that only those particular numbers can go in those boxes. Now, on the cool math version of the game, you do that by pressing this button and then clicking on the boxes. Clicking on the boxes where you want to jot down your numbers. So for these numbers, I'm going to jot down the numbers 3 and 4. So I can remember that only those numbers can go in those boxes. I can then use process of elimination to narrow down these possible numbers until only one number is left in its respective box. If I do this thoroughly and correctly, that is the correct number for that box. Now, one feature I particularly like on the cool math version of Sudoku are these little numbers right here. Now, these little numbers tell you how many times the big number already appears on the grid. So, for example, appear the number 6 already appears 6 times on the grid. Now, how I like to take advantage of that is that I like to focus on the number that appears more often on the grid. So a good idea, if you're specifically playing this using paper and pencil, would be to create a number bank similar to this, where you mark down how many times each number appears on the grid and you keep updating it as you're solving the puzzle. That way, you'll know which numbers you want to focus on. Again, I'd advise that you start by focusing on the number that appears most often. Now, when you finish your puzzle, each number should appear exactly 9 times. All right, so now I'm going to finish solving this puzzle. I'm going to cut that part out so I can show you what your finished puzzle should look like. Now, so your finished Sudoku puzzle should look like this, where you have every box filled in with a number and you have no repeating numbers in each row, column, and block. Obviously, once I place a 2 in this last box right here, the game will tell me that I'm done. Before I do that, my last piece of advice that I want to share is that once you've made it past the hard part, your grid is almost completely filled to the point where finding the remaining correct numbers becomes obvious again. It's pretty much smooth sailing from there. So just finish solving the puzzle. So I'm going to place a 2 right here. There you go. So to recap everything that I said, step 1, start in an easier area of the grid. Step 2, keep filling in the more obvious parts of the grid. Step 3, if necessary, write notes to mark possible numbers in certain boxes. Step 4, use process of elimination. Step 5, create a number bank. And step 6, once you've made it past the hard part, just finish solving the puzzle. So how will learning how to play Sudoku help you? Well, Sudoku, like any other puzzle game, helps improve your critical thinking and problem-solving skills, which are crucial when applying them to many real-world scenarios. So I hope this Teaching Tuesday video encourages you to try it out for yourself.